G'day there guys, it's Connie here again, and we are back with some more stories from Reddit. As always, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and also the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Alrighty guys, we're on Am I the A-hole? This one was originally posted by user ParkingBreadfruit80, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for refusing to have my dad in my life after he chose his new family? Now guys, I do believe I might have read the start of this story like quite a few months ago, but there's so many new updates now that I thought I'd come back to it. Let's get stuck in. When I was 13, my dad had an affair and left my mum and moved in with his affair partner, who I'll call Jane. At first, me and my sister would visit every weekend, and I will admit he was a good dad, although I never liked Jane. When Jane got pregnant and had their son, our visits became less frequent, and my dad was more concerned with his new family. He would miss some of my recitals or my sister's competitions because he was busy with his son. When I was 16, Jane decided she wanted to move for a new job opportunity. Me and my sister begged him not to leave us, but he just said, quote, I need to prioritize my family. He moved 10 hours away. That pretty much ended our relationship, and I decided to go no contact, as it was clear he did not consider me family. My younger sister stayed in contact with him. He would try and call me and offer for me to come and visit with my sister, but I refused. When he came back to see my sister, I would refuse to speak to him when he turned up at the house. I didn't invite him to my high school or college graduation. I'm now 33 and have remained no contact with him. He has over the years repeatedly tried contacting me and getting his family to contact me on his behalf to reconcile. I have avoided family events in case he attended, including my sister's wedding and baby showers. My dad and his family moved back to our hometown 3 months ago, and he has been relentless trying to reconcile. I have received messages from my half-brother and sister wanting a relationship, saying he's a great dad. My dad found out I'm getting married and keeps trying to contact me, and has even tried to speak to my fiancée. Jane messaged me saying I've broke my dad's heart repeatedly and I'm pathetic and should get therapy. I replied back that she was nothing but a home-wrecking tramp and then blocked her. Everyone seems to be wanting me to let him back in my life. I'm sick of all the harassment and accidentally bumping into my dad and his family in the town. Whenever I see him, I just walk away and refuse to speak to them. Everyone is saying he's a good dad and tried his best to remain in contact, but I pushed him away. Everyone is pressuring me, my mum and sister, grandparents, aunts and uncles, even some of my friends. My fiancé has even started saying I'm the a-hole for shutting him out. It's all starting to get to me. So, am I the a-hole? No, not at all. I mean, it's up to OP whether or not she wants to rebuild a relationship with her dad. Like she said, based on his comments, it was clear he didn't consider her family at that point in their life, and those were important formative years. Yeah, sure, the dad can do whatever he wants and everything in his power to try and regain that relationship, but ultimately, it's not his decision. Let's go to some comments. Not the a-hole, but this is going to be brutal if your fiancé doesn't get on board with your pirate ship. Depending on the size of your hometown and how serious he is about pushing this, you may need to consider moving, especially if everyone around you is involved. You're allowed to have whatever kind of relationship you want with your father. Did your fiancé have to deal with being abandoned by your dad? Nope. Your sister was younger than you and may not have felt the loss like you did. You have the right to feel angry and hurt. Block Jane. This is the woman who pressured your father to leave your town. She had an affair with him that broke up your family. Your father did those things too. Neither one of them has any right to tell you how to react or feel. Deadbeat parents love to get back into their kids' lives when the kids are adults and no longer need to be parented and things are easy. You should feel totally free to do what is right for you. Tell everyone else that you no longer want to hear about this. They don't get to dictate how you feel. Whenever anyone brings it up, leave the room or put down the phone. Do not tolerate it and people will learn to shut it. Not the a-hole. I'd send them all a clear message that you do not consider him family after he quite clearly told you when you were 16 that you are not family. Are they currently aware of this? And also make it clear that you'll start cutting them out of your life if they don't stop harassing you about this. Perhaps just throw them all in a group chat for this so you can send it once to everybody. Your fiancé siding with them instead of respecting your pretty clear boundary is worrying, and would make me reconsider the marriage if he doesn't cut it out fast, as that's a massive red flag that doesn't bode well for the future with him. I would call him. Don't let him talk, just say, quote, "You told me you were prioritizing your family. I was clearly not in that loop. You chose not to be my father. I'm sorry you regret it, but if you don't stop harassing me and sending people to harass me for you, you will also have a restraining order from me. I am upholding the rule you made when I was a child. It's not my problem. Leave me alone." Okay, Opie makes an edit. Thank you for your comments. I haven't got through all of them, but I'm glad to know that most of you think I'm not the a-hole, which is a huge relief as I thought I was going insane. I'm going to have a serious conversation with my fiancé, as most of you pointed out. He should have my back. If he continues to defend my dad, then I'm going to have to think if this relationship should go any further. We're 12 weeks out from a wedding, but need to sort this out sooner than later. For information, I own a local business. Moving away is not an option. I live in a small town where everyone knows everyone, and he's friends with a lot of people, including my fiancé's family. My dad did not come back for me. He came back because Jane's parents needed help and care. He has not financially supported me since I was 17. He withheld my college fund to try and blackmail me into having a relationship with him, so I had to work and get loans. I've avoided events because my family use it as a chance to force reconciliation. He also won't leave me alone and make scenes. He'll come up to me talking as if nothing has happened, trying to hug me, or starts crying. I can't simply cut everyone off. Everyone is on his side and against me, including my own mother. Edit 2. To give you all a bit more context, when he left my mum for Jane, he only wanted us on the weekend. My mum offered him 50-50, but he refused. I didn't like Jane and was standoffish with her because I knew what they'd done. My sister was too young to understand and was more accepting of her. Jane was mean to me, but nice to my sister. When I was at my dad's, I felt uncomfortable and she would purposefully leave me out of fun activities or plan things purely for my sister. We had a few arguments over minor things, but my dad always took her side. My dad and me used to have daddy-daughter date at least once every 2 weeks. Jane put a stop to that. When she had my half-brother, we went from going every weekend to once every 6 weeks. My dad was MIA and had finally gotten his precious son. He stopped trying with me. When they moved, I was so upset he chose to leave us. He didn't want custody just for us to visit him every now and again and speak to him on the phone. Parenting at a distance, so all of his focus was on his new family. When I graduated from high school and refused to invite him, everything blew up. Jane called me some terrible names, and so did my dad, and he refused to give me my college fund unless I started being part of the family again. From what I gathered, he spent it on his new family. I'm sick of being the one to miss out on events with my family. I would be willing to be in the same room, but not interact or even be civil, but he pushes things and makes it impossible. And edit 3, I've spoken to my fiancé. Update will be posted shortly. Okay folks, and let's go straight to that update, 10 hours later. Thank you for all of the comments. Although most seemed to be not the a-hole, some were you're the a-hole. Some of you gave helpful suggestions which I'm planning to take on board. I've just spoken to my fiancé, and unfortunately it has not gone well. But at this point in time I've had enough, and want to run away and never come back. My fiancé knows my history with my dad and Jane. I explained to him that him siding with my father and pressuring me was hurting me, and as my fiancé, he should be supporting me. My fiancé, who I'll call Luke, told me he can't support me in doing something that he knows is wrong. Luke told me that he had spoken to my father and had an understanding of both sides of the story, and believes that if we both sit down and talk, we can sort this out and reconcile. I told Luke I don't want this and want no contact, and asked why is he even speaking to my father. Luke admitted his father, who was friends with my dad, encouraged Luke to speak to him and hear him out. Luke told me my dad loved me very much and always wanted to be in my life, and has pictures of me. I'm guessing he got these from my family as my social media is set to private. Luke said my dad is heartbroken at the state of our relationship because I was being unreasonable about him moving away when I was young. Luke stated I got on the wrong foot with Jane, and that I was not innocent in the breakdown of the relationship. He told me that everyone can see the truth but me, and to look in the mirror because I'm the problem. Needless to say, I broke down crying and asked him why he was doing this to me and not supporting me. Luke claims to love me, but won't stand by and watch me be a heartless bee. After he said this, I stood up, told him that he shouldn't marry a heartless bee, and walked out. I'm currently sat in my car. My phone is blowing up, with Luke trying to contact me, but I don't want to speak to him. I feel like I'm losing everything and everyone. I don't understand what is happening. Oh man, it doesn't sound like it's getting better. Also, am I missing something here? Like, Opie's done absolutely nothing wrong here, and going off the context we've been given is completely justified in her actions. I don't understand how the whole town is just against her like this. Like, even the mum is on the dad's side? Am I reading that right? The mum who got cheated on is on dad's side? Wow. Let's go to another update. Hi everyone, thanks for the comments and letting me sound off on you, as I desperately need an outside perspective. I know a lot of you are telling me to cut all contact with my family and leave town. That is not an option for me financially, and I would not be able to set up business elsewhere. All my money is invested in it, and I've only managed to get established recently with steady income. Relocating is not an option for me. I love my friends and family, and don't want to cut everyone off. I love my hometown, I grew up here, this is my life, and I'm not willing to walk away from it. I didn't expect to write another update this fast, but a lot has happened today. So firstly, I agreed to meet my dad, to talk, and try and get him to back off and leave me alone. I asked my mum to arrange it, just him and no one else. I wasn't sure if he would agree to that, but within 15 minutes of her calling, he was at my door. I asked my mum to stay and mediate. To summarise the conversation, these are a bit messed up because it's a lot to remember. Me. I asked him to give me space and stop trying to get everyone on his side and let me live my life. I told him he stopped being my father when he moved 10 hours away. I told him Jane was mean to me and told him about all the horrible things she's said to me over the years. I hate how he chose Jane and his new family over me, and how he told me he had to prioritise them, and how he basically told me I wasn't family. He was an a-hole for withholding my college fund and trying to blackmail me and then spending it on his new family. I hate how I've missed major family events because he attended the events and would make them awkward. I don't see his son and daughter as my family, and I'm sick of them trying to speak to me and approach me. He keeps making scenes every time he sees me and making me look like the bad guy. He keeps inserting himself into my life, going to my fiance's family events, going behind my back to talk and sway Luke to his side. And I hate how he cheated on my mum and broke our family up, and then listened to Jane, who stopped our dates, missed my recitals, reduced contact, and was more concerned about his son. He said, "He loves me and always had. He is never going to give up trying to reconnect, and he has given me enough space over the years, and he is done hearing about my life from second-hand knowledge and is not willing to miss any more of it. He loves Jane and can't regret his past because he wouldn't have her or his 2 kids. He wishes he had done it differently and ended his marriage with Mum first. His kids are innocent and I shouldn't be taking it out on them. They just want to know their big sister. I was a difficult child who was rude and disrespectful to Jane, breaking her belongings, calling her names and ruining day trips. When Jane got pregnant, she was high risk, and me coming every week and starting arguments was stressing her out, so for her and his son's sake, he stopped the weekend visitation. He still spoke to us on the phone and took us out for dinner and days out, but just didn't let us sleep over. When his son was born, he was premature and had health complications, which meant him staying in hospital for weeks and frequent hospital admissions. Jane was also going through PPD, so he wasn't able to see us as much, and had to miss some events when he was taking care of Jane and his son. Jane was unable to get a job locally, and the opportunity was too good to pass up, so they had to move. He pointed out that he came back to town for weekends as much as he could to see us, and would always invite us to fly out and spend vacations with him. He phoned every day, but I refused to speak or see him. They had flown in for my graduation, but I refused to invite him, and he lost his temper, and refused to give me my college fund. He apologised for this and tried to fix this a few weeks later and give me the money, but I refused it. He has not spent the money, he still has it, and I have only to ask and I can have it. He had visited me at my college to try and talk to me, but I refused to see him. He is not going to miss family events. He makes a scene because he misses me and just wants to talk to me and reconcile, but I always end up running away or shouting insults at him and Jane. He has been trying for 16 years to reconnect, but I shut him down at every turn. He just wants to be my dad. He is old friends with my fiance's dad, and he hoped my fiance could talk some sense into me and open a line of communication. He feels I never gave Jane a chance, no matter how hard she tried in the beginning, and hoped we could be civil. Jane hates knowing I talk bad about her, and mean to her children, and won't speak to him. What he wants. My dad is in therapy, and wants me to join him for family sessions. He wants me to spend time with him one-on-one, to stop being rude and mean to his children and spend time with them, stop trash-talking Jane to everyone and actually give her a chance, invite for him and my family to my wedding, and to walk me down the aisle. And I want him to stop talking to my friends and getting others to try and talk to me on his behalf, to keep Jane away from me completely, to be civil at events or in town, providing he does not try and hug me or talk to me. My mum told him he was being unrealistic with some of the things he wants, especially regarding Jane and his other children, so we have agreed for now that I will attend 3 therapy sessions with him when he arranges it. My mum thinks I need individual therapy as well. He will stop trying to interfere in my life and relationships. He will keep Jane away from me and talk to his kids to give me space. I will be civil to him in public as long as he respects my personal space and does not approach or pressure me. As for my fiancé, I still haven't spoken to him. He turned up at my mum's, but she refused to let him in. He keeps blowing up my phone, and so does his family and friends, telling me to hear him out. During my conversation with my dad, I found out my dad has paid for most of the vendors and services for my upcoming wedding, and they've been on speaking terms for quite some time, longer than I thought. Luke told me his family had paid for these, and I believed him. I feel betrayed by him and that I can't trust him. I'm going to have to speak to him eventually, but I don't feel ready. Okay, moving on to another update. Firstly, I'd like to apologise for taking down my posts. I was really upset and felt under a lot of pressure and needed space to think without constant messages. Some of you were trying to be helpful and I appreciate that, but some of the abusive messages I received were terrible. I'm updating for those who have asked for an update and were supportive to me. This will be my last post and I won't be posting again. Firstly, the deal with my dad is off the table. He couldn't even manage a week without overstepping my boundaries, so there will be no therapy sessions with him and I will remain no contact. As you are all aware, after speaking to my dad and agreeing a way forward in my conditions, keep Jane away from me, tell his kids to back off, don't pressure me or invade my space. It lasted all of 3 days. Everyone seemed happy I had forgiven my dad and told me so. My sister was excited I was willing to give him a chance, and with some pressure I agreed to have dinner with just her and my dad. When my sister and I arrived at the restaurant to meet our dad, he was not alone. He had invited Jane, my grandparents, his son and daughter. He got up and tried to hug me. I immediately became upset, asking why they were there. My dad told me that if we have any hope of repairing our relationship, I had to accept Jane and my younger siblings. I told him he just broke our deal and to never contact me again and tried to leave. He refused to let me leave and grabbed hold of me. When I say all hell broke loose, I mean it. I started shouting at them. My dad, Jane and his grandparents tried to gaslight me and convince me to sit down. When that didn't work, things got very heated and a shouting match started, and a lot of unforgivable things was said by my dad and Jane, including remarks about my appearance and calling me a psychopath. My half-brother walked out of the restaurant and my half-sister started to cry. My sister actually surprised me and defended me, shouting at my dad for ruining things after all this time when I'd finally given him a chance. She even slapped Jane. She got me out of there and apologised to me. I think this was the first time she'd really seen how Jane was with me and how she treated me. She kept saying she couldn't understand how Dad had spent years saying he would do anything to have me back and then would do this when he finally got his chance to rebuild the relationship. My dad has been trying to contact me, but I've blocked him and refused to talk to him. I have also refused to speak to my grandparents. My dad has tried to convince my mum and sister to speak to me, but I think he's burned his bridges with them. The incident from the restaurant has spread, and some people seem to be backing off. Like I said, what my dad and Jane shouted at me was unforgivable, and they were overheard, and this is a small town. Hopefully people will back off, and those who won't, I'm going to have to cut them out. My sister is very unhappy with my dad and Jane not speaking to them. She is blaming them for me going no contact again. My sister is not letting them see her kids. I don't know if my sister will reconcile, but right now she is furious. My mum is also furious, and apparently had a few choice words with my dad and Jane, and has promised she will never pressure me again to speak to him. I'm going to go to individual therapy. I think I definitely need it. I do feel bad about my half-siblings as they haven't done anything wrong, and I may be open to having a distanced kind of relationship with them in the future, but I'm not ready yet, or if I'll ever be. I did send them a message on Facebook to apologise and tell them that they've done nothing wrong. Lastly, to update you all, in regards to my fiancé, well, I spoke to him yesterday about everything, and I'd been radio silent since walking out on him. Basically, he was pressured by his father to speak to my dad, and was fed a sob story of a misunderstood father desperately wanting to be in his daughter's life. Luke had become annoyed with me refusing to attend his family events, and walking out of his mother's birthday party when I realised my dad and Jane was there, as he was getting pressure from his family about me ruining their events. He just wanted everyone to be happy and get along, clearly at my expense. Luke admitted my dad had paid for some of the vendors for the wedding, but he did not know this until after it was already paid. His father had told Luke that him and his mum had paid. My dad had told Luke it was a gift and his way of contributing. Luke admitted my dad had asked him to speak to me on his behalf. I told Luke he had betrayed my trust, and I couldn't see myself marrying someone who does not support me. He broke down crying and apologising to me, and promised to never do it again. Luke was heartbroken and begged for a second chance. To those of you who wanted me to break up with him, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but we are going to try and work through this. Apart from this issue, he has been the best partner, and I genuinely think that he had been manipulated by his family and my dad. Luke has promised to stand up to his family and go no contact with my dad. I'm still living at my mum's as I still need some space, which I won't have if I move home. We are going to contact our wedding vendors to see what our options are next week. Luke is begging for a postponement rather than cancel it altogether. We may still break up as actions speak louder than words, and I need to see if he can rebuild what we had and show me I can trust and depend on him. On to another update. Hi everyone, I did not plan to make another update at all, but I'm still getting messages for an update and thought I would let you know the recent developments. Firstly, I've cancelled the wedding. I was able to get some partial refunds but have lost some money. Luke begged me not to cancel the wedding, but there was no way I could marry him after what he did. I was set on giving him a second chance, and he promised me he would go low contact and stand up to his parents and issue an ultimatum that we would not tolerate any contact with my dad and Jane. Basically, he would tell them that we would not attend any event or party if they were invited, and we would not tolerate any attempt to force contact or relationships with my dad. He met with them to explain this to them. When he came back from this meeting, he was quite irritable with me, and appeared to have had a change of heart. To summarise it, he was trying to convince me his family only meant well and that he can't go low contact with his family because he loves them and he can't dictate their friendships. He then tried to convince me it won't be an issue in the future, and his father would speak to my dad and tell him to be on his best behaviour in my presence. As soon as I heard this, people's comments went through my head, and the main one being if we had children, he would take them to his family, where my dad and Jane would be, and I would have no control over this. At that moment, I realised I couldn't trust Luke, and never would be able to. I broke up with him. He is not taking it well and keeps begging me to take him back and that he would go no contact with his family. His family and friends are trying to convince me on his behalf not to end our relationship. He has made his choice and proven to me he is spineless. I don't need him in my life. In regards to my dad, I'm looking into getting a restraining order. Given what happened in the restaurant, I might be able to, but I don't know yet. A friend of mine is helping me look into this. My dad has kept a low profile since last week. Apart from a couple of attempts to apologise to me, I haven't heard much from him. My sister still won't speak to him or Jane. Unlike me, my sister is highly confrontational and has blasted him and Jane on social media with what happened at the restaurant and things that have happened in the past which I didn't know about. My sister and Jane had a very public screaming match where she had seen them in town due to my sister's posts and demanding to take them down. It ended up with Jane assaulting my sister. My dad apparently sided with Jane in this. My sister now hates Jane and refuses to speak to our dad, who is also trying to contact her. My dad and Jane's reputation seems to have taken a hit, and between the incident in the restaurant and my sister's fight with Jane and her numerous Facebook posts about them, people are gossiping. This has worked well for me because some people have backed off, which I'm happy about. Unfortunately, there are a few people still on his side, including my ex's parents. As for my half-siblings, there's not much of an update in regards to them. I've found a therapist, however there's a bit of a waiting list before I can start my therapy. I'm still living with my mum, who is completely on my side, and I've found a kitten and pick her up next week. Powering through here, another update 2 weeks later. Hi everyone, thought I would give you an update as to what's been happening the last couple of weeks for those of you who are still interested. Firstly, I'm still at my mum's and I got my little kitten. I've named her Sasha, and she's the sweetest thing but very energetic. For those of you asking for pictures, I'll try, but she refuses to stay still long enough to get one that's not blurred. I love her already. My mum continues to be my rock. I'm still waiting for therapy, but I'm finding Reddit useful and therapeutic, and the support I've received from most of the people on here has been great and helped me see things more clearly, so a big thank you to everyone. As for my ex, now that we've broken up, I feel lighter and free, and being away from him has made me see all the red flags that I was blind to in our relationship and feel like I've dodged a bullet. Luke, I'm using real names because my posts were discovered, is not taking the breakup well and has taken over from my father constantly bothering me. If you read this, Luke, we are done and I'm not changing my mind, so stop calling me, stop coming to the house, and stop sending me flowers. I'm moving on, so you should too. My sister Emma is still firmly on my side and has washed her hands of Jane, the step monster, and they're not on speaking terms after my sister told everyone about Jane's affairs. Jane is still trying to save face, saying my sister is lying, and telling everyone she can how we're just the worst and that we've treated her terrible over the years and trying to ruin her marriage. I don't think anyone is buying what she's saying. She has sent abusive messages to me and my sister, and when we've bumped into her she's been screaming at us and threatening us. My sister's car had been keyed and my store windows were smashed. We can't prove it's her, unfortunately, but she is the most likely culprit. My half-siblings are definitely my dad's children. They tested them years ago when she was a baby. From what I've heard, they're not speaking to Jane at all. As for my dad, he seems to have grown a spine and has kicked out Jane. She's now living with her parents. From what I've heard, he's thinking about divorce. I haven't had any contact with my dad except for a text saying he was sorry for everything. As for getting a restraining order, I'm more concerned about getting one against Jane at the moment. Oh wow, so Jane was having an affair this whole time as well? Jeez. Seems like it's all falling apart on that side of the family. Someone asks OP if she has cameras at her place. I have cameras, but you can't see if it's her because of the angle. I'm getting more fitted for better coverage. And on if she'll forgive her father and if he would get a second chance without Jane present. Yep, he's destroyed my relationship, his and Jane's relationship with Emma, and by the sounds of it, his own relationship, all because he couldn't respect my boundaries. No, the damage is already done. He had his chance to fix things with me, and he blew it. I just want to be left alone and get on with my life. Okie dokie folks, on to a new update 2 months later. Hi everyone, it's been a while and some of you have asked for an update. Firstly, my dad and Jane are still together. They broke up for a while, but now they're back together and showing a united front even though she's a cheater. Apparently they tried again for the sake of their kids. Weirdly enough, me and my dad are in a better place. We occasionally text and are cordial when we see each other, but he has stopped pushing so hard for a relationship and respecting my space. We can now be in the same place and room without a scene, and have had the occasional coffee together, which to be fair is all I ever wanted. He even gave me my college fund with no strings attached. My step-siblings and I have started talking and we follow each other on social media. My stepsister comes to my business sometimes and helps out. I realised they were not at fault and I was being unfair to them. They are still upset with their mum but are stuck living with her. From what I can gather, they're giving her the silent treatment. As for Jane, I still hate her, but at least she is staying out of my business. I unfortunately could not get a restraining order against her due to lack of evidence. I avoid her and won't speak to her, and I think my dad has warned her. My sister is speaking to our dad again, but despises Jane and refuses to have anything to do with her, and is going out of her way to exclude her from everything she possibly can. Me and her have become so much closer. As for Luke, we are not back together, and never will be. He has not fully accepted this, but things have calmed down, and I'm not being harassed as much. He still wants to get back together, but I'm not interested. Him, his friends and family will eventually accept this. He thinks because things are better with my dad and me, now I'll soften and forgive him too, but I just can't trust him. As for me, I started therapy and I'm working through my issues. I've realised the relationship with my dad wasn't purely his fault, and I share blame in this. I've spent my life acting like he abandoned me, when I pushed him away as well. My business is doing well, and I'm just focusing on myself. Thank you for all your support. And some final comments. It's amazing to see how much you've grown and overcome. You should be incredibly proud of the progress you've made in your personal life and relationships. Don't let anyone make you accept adult-level responsibility for something that happened when you were a kid. He was the adult, so the onus to foster the parent and child relationship was solely on him. He never should have moved away from his kids. That was 100% selfish. Yeah, I tend to agree, but I do love the self-awareness from OP in regards to, pushing her dad away as well, particularly when she was older. It seems like no one in this story was really trying to do anything to nurture the relationships. And also, does she want a relationship with her dad or not? At first it was completely no contact, I want to move on with my life, and now she's having coffee with him and everything and, somewhat forgiving him for what happened. I don't know, I feel like deep down OP does want a relationship with her father, as we all do. I can't help but feel like she's kidding herself when she says that she doesn't and she wants to move on completely. Like no one really yearns for that. I don't know, what do you guys think about this one? Let me know down in the comments. That's the final update for now, but we'll look for more later down the line. Either way, time for a new story. Okay, jumping over to something a bit different, this one was written by user No Breadfruit and it's titled, Male Boss is Clueless About Pregnancy. Oh my god, this has just now happened at work. My boss is male. I have a male co-worker in the next cubicle whose wife is pregnant and is due within the next few weeks. Boss is trying to make coverage plans for this guy to be out of the office when the baby happens. The boss literally tried to write the guy up because he wouldn't tell him exactly what day the delivery would happen. I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't hear it with my own ears. What? I mean, I'm not sure you can put a timer on and plan something like that. Let's go to the comments. When my mum was pregnant with me back in '86, she was working as a paralegal. One of the attorneys asked her, in all seriousness, if she could just delay giving birth until after this big case is done. My mum looked him dead in the eye and said, I feel so sorry for your wife. Dude had 3 kids. Be right back. Let me ask when the baby wants to arrive. The F? What? How? Has this guy literally never interacted with someone who's pregnant or the partner of someone who's pregnant before in his entire life? It doesn't bode well for how he'd treat any other unpredictable circumstance either. OP updates 2 hours later. Holy crap, the idiot dude just did it again. He finally got it into his head why my co-worker can't name the specific date when his wife will go into labour. Now he's trying to save face by being sympathetic with Mr. Father-to-be. Our office break room has a private mother's room where women can go pump if they need to. Mr. Boss Dude said to the father dude, literally, that he was sorry there wasn't an equivalent father's room. The dude legit thought that the mother's room was for an exhausted new mum to go nap. That one just earned him a march into his female boss's office. I'd love to be a fly on that wall. One comment says, I realise that not all sex education is created equal, but damn, does boss have kids? A female spouse? Does someone need to buy her a drink and see if she's okay? Opie says, he had an ex-girlfriend, probably a reason for the X. Another update 1 day later. So, several of you asked for further updates about my idiot boss who, in the space of 1 hour yesterday, revealed that he thought that pregnant women could predict the exact date their delivery would happen, revealed his belief that our officer's mother's room was for napping, not pumping, and after number 2 was revealed, he was immediately called into the female grand boss's office so that she could set the record straight. Their meeting took about 10 minutes, and then he came back into our work area. Guys, it got so much worse from there. I had to delay posting this update until I found out what the final result would be. He starts by admitting to everybody there, mostly male, I and one other person in the room were female, that he had misunderstood the purpose of the mother's room. Okay, so far so good. Then he took out his metaphorical shovel and started digging his hole even deeper. Turns out he also misunderstood the concept of lactation. The dude literally thought that all women are always lactating, all the time. As in, the breasts come in, the milk comes out, regardless of any woman's pregnancy or birthing status. And then, oh my god, the dude literally points to my chest and says, I mean, look at hers. Hers are really big. She should be in that room all the time, but she's not. One of the men in the room immediately gives him a forceful, shut up. I follow up with a spontaneous performance of 4-letter beat poetry that would melt my phone if I tried to type it out. One of my co-workers immediately went out to fetch the grand boss again. She got back into the room and escorted him out. We didn't see him for the rest of the day. I got to the office this morning and saw his personal items boxed up on his desk. Grand boss has already informed me that my now ex-boss will be coming to collect his items later today, and she gave me the opportunity to be elsewhere when he arrives. Nope, I'm going to be here to watch him get fired. This will be glorious. Opie comments on her company's policies on if an incident happens at the workplace. Thanks for the very necessary response. I should add that my company has a 3 strikes policy when it comes to sexual harassment. Only 1 strike if there's physical contact, which there wasn't in this case. I learned from Grand Boss that this was his 3rd strike. I don't know the details of the first 2 incidents, but he'd displayed a pattern of this behaviour before. One commenter says, just wow, I spit out my coffee when I read that he thought women lactated 24/7. Then, to point at your chest, he didn't just dig a hole, he jumped into the hole and buried himself alive. Oh my effing god, he is so clueless. How does he walk and breathe at the same time? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. This guy's clearly not the sharpest tool in the shed. Opie makes another update 4 hours later. He came through just now to collect his box of stuff. He was escorted into our office by Grand Boss and our building security guard. I was looking straight at him all the way through, trying to gauge his state of mind. He looked appropriately humiliated. At one point he locked eyes with me, noticed my crap-eating grin, and looked like he was about to say something. Mr. Male co-worker in the next cube, the one with the pregnant wife whose interaction yesterday started this whole thing, had a video queued up on his desktop. At that exact moment, he hit play. It's an 8-second clip of my hero, George Takai, who said the only words that needed to be said to this guy. He slumped, defeated, and slithered out of the building with his escort. Once he left the room, all of us just burst out laughing. It's going to be a great weekend. And for those wondering what the video was, I just looked at it, and it's just a guy saying, "You are a douchebag, a total douchebag." So yeah, something that guy definitely needed to hear, that's for sure. Okay, I hope he makes a new final update. A few weeks ago, I started that thread that took off about how my now ex-boss, who used his ignorance of female anatomy to commit sexual harassment, and got fired for it. The whole adventure started because he tried to write my male co-worker up, because the co-worker wouldn't tell him exactly what day his wife would go into labour. Today's update: the labour and delivery was successful. My co-worker now has a beautiful baby girl. And I hope she grows up never having a negative story to bring to this sub. And OP comments, OP here, I didn't want to gloat before, but I want to gloat now. I got promoted to replace the dude, who we now affectionately call our lactation consultant. It's absolutely true that my breasts got me benefits at work. and I'm proud of it. Ah, that's brilliant. Alrighty guys, we're going to leave that one there. Let me know your thoughts down below. And that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.